to welcome Dr. Sundar, Dean, College of Science and Humanities from SRM University, Ramapuram Campus, Chennai. Dr. Sundar will be speaking about education leadership essentials. Next, I extend my warm welcome to Dr. Indu Rao, Professor and Director of Academic Staff College from Vellore, VIT. Madam will be speaking on the current topic of the NEP educational challenges for education leaders. I also welcome Dr. Uday Kumar, Dean from Arjun College of Technology, Coimbatore, who will be giving a consolidated report of today's session. I also welcome Dr. Parvadam Kailasam, Professor, Sri Sairam Engineering College, who will be proposing vote of thanks. Finally, extend my warm welcome to all participants from all over the world participating in this conference. I also feel a little excited and also humbly record that more than 1,600 delegates have registered for this conference. I am confident and assure all the participants that this conference will enhance your education leadership qualities. Once again, I welcome all the participants, the speakers, the chief guest of this conference. Lastly, in this pandemic situation, kindly follow the safety health protocols by wearing face masks, frequently sanitizing your hand, maintaining social distance. Also, kindly get vaccinated if not. Be safe and secure. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for the warm welcome. Now, I'm elected to take an opportunity to welcome and introduce our first speaker of the day, Dr. Lee Elsa Farfrayer. Dr. Lee, currently designated as Quality Assurance Manager, International Maritime College, Oman, holds a BA, HDE, BEd, MEd, and DEd degree. Her PhD research focused on the implementation of recognition on prior learning in higher education. Dr. Lee's passion for education and training has driven her to assume various roles at all levels of education and training landscape. Dr. Lee, based in South Africa for most of her career, her work have nevertheless taken her to too many countries, including Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana, Mauritius, Egypt, and Bahrain, where she has developed national policies for higher education and national quality assurance system. She has lectured trainee teachers and she has been involved in higher education for many years. Dr. Lee's responsibility have included policy development, implementation monitoring, curriculum development, conducting reviews, developing and implementing assessment, modernization system, and preparing institution for accreditation. Lee's research includes policy development and implementation, assessment and scholarship of learning and teaching. She has also been involved in evaluation of projects and programs in the field of education and training. In addition, she has worked with industry to develop national vocational training system in a wide variety of fields as diverse as the motor manufacturing industry, the wholesale and retail sector, business development, and further education and training sector. Dear professors, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Lee to take over the session on getting others to do great things. 6th lesson in educational leadership. Welcome, ma'am. Now the floor is open and yours.
Thank you. Are you going to let me share my screen in a minute?
Yes, ma'am. Visible, ma'am.
Okay. I'd just like to start off by saying a warm welcome to everybody who's at the conference online and to the organizers, to the other keynote speakers, and to anybody who's participating in this conference, in this very important conference over the next couple of days. I'm very privileged and I feel honored to have been asked to be a keynote speaker, and I hope that I'll live up to your expectations. I'd like to start my presentation if I can share my screen. It still says disabled. The host has disabled this. Could you just enable it for me?
Sir?
She can share the screen, madam.
It says the host has disabled participant screen sharing. These are the wonderful moments that happen online that don't happen in real life. Still disabled?
Yeah, yes, ma'am, it's able. You can share the screen, madam. You can be able to do that.
Should I share? Should I put it? Send it to you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I've shut down my email, so I don't know if that's going to be feasible. You can't share. Allow me to share screen from that side.
It's already scanned, madam. You can do it. No, anybody can scan. Anybody can share the screen, madam. She can do it. Okay. Okay. One second.
Still not? Oh, it looks like I can share now. Okay, good. Right, we're in business. Good. Okay. Let me just go to my from the beginning. Okay, so what you'll see on your screen, I hope, is the very lovely building in which I work in Oman. It's the International Maritime College. And just beyond the building, you can't see it now, but there is the beach and a beautiful view. It's certainly a lovely building. And the title of my presentation today is Getting Others to Do Great Things. And there are 6 lessons for educational leaders that I'd like to share with you today. There are lessons from educational leaders and also for educational leaders. But first of all, I want to tell you a little bit more about where I am located. You'll see on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the map of Oman. And I've drawn a circle around Muscat, which is the capital of Oman. And Soha, up to the left corner, is the place where the college is located. It's a little bit out of Muscat, and you'll see that there is a mountain range that borders the coastal area. And the lovely part about Oman is that you're always between the mountains and the sea. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the beautiful Corniche, which is the Mutra, the old part of Muscat, and the Corniche that runs all the way around Mutra, which is the capital and the old part. Here we have some photos of Oman, just to orientate you. We have a photo of some young boys in their daily wear. This is what children and adults wear on a daily basis in Oman. It's called a dish dasher. You'll see below some of the lovely scenic attractions that you can see in Oman. It sounds like I'm a bit of a tourist guide, but there certainly are the most wonderful places to see. The left-hand bottom corner, you'll see a sinkhole that you can actually swim in. And up at the top, you'll see one of the main activities is the fishing, commercial fishing, that takes place along the coast of Oman, very good fishing waters. And below that, you see a camel. And we have the one-hump camel. And you'll see on its front legs that it is tied, they are tied together. It's what we call hobbling, and it's done so that the camels don't run too fast, because they are quite a hazard on the roads if you're not aware, and they run in front of you. And to the right-hand side, you see the beautiful mountains of Oman. And I think that's one of the hotel developments. There are some amazing hotel developments in the mountains that give you the most beautiful views of the area below. But but there's a problem. This is the temperature in Muscat today. Okay, it's 44 degrees with a real feel of 51 degrees. And it's quite hot. It's a time when you don't really want to be outside too much, and you are able to, you should stay indoors and keep your air cons on. Right, let me move on to the overview of today's presentation. And oh, I see there's people in the waiting room. I'll have to let them in now. Okay. What do I do to let them enter? Okay. And what you'll see is on the overview, firstly, I want to explain to you today what my purpose is in giving you this presentation and what my message will be. Secondly, I'd like to talk about what defines educational leadership. Thirdly, I would like to try and dispel some of the myths that we have about leadership. We'll talk about the types of leadership, and we're going to look at 5 educational leaders who have been significant and highly influential in bringing about the kind of education that we have today. And then there are 6 lessons for educational leaders that come from this. So that's the overview of today. My purpose today, okay, my purpose today is to talk about leadership, not in terms of what I can do as a great leader, but how I can inspire, empower, and support other people in our teams to do great things. Leadership is unlocking people's potential to become better. And I truly believe that. It's not about your actions as your great things that you will be remembered for as a leader. It's about how you develop and unlock other people's potential to become better. And you'll see that I am talking from experience today and from my heart. There isn't a lot of theory in this. There's a little bit of theorizing and maybe a more applied theory, but I'm not going to present to you the theories of leadership, the definition of leadership, etc. These you all know, and you can read them up. What I'm going to give you today, I hope, is something that you can't read or buy or look up. It is an understanding of leadership that I have learned from my many years of working in education, working both as a leader and as a follower of a leader, and the things I've read, and I'm speaking from my heart to your heart. And I hope that you will see that this is what I believe and hold dear. It's not highly theorized. And because of this, there are also very few references, because this comes largely from my own thinking, my reading, my cumulative experience over so many years in education. Where possible, I have included, where it's necessary, I've included the references, but I try to use mostly Creative Commons references, which are freely available and open to everyone. And I want to say that I would like this to be an enjoyable session. I'd like you to relax, sit back, and as they say on the airlines, enjoy the hospitality. I'd like to have an informal approach, and you can certainly ask questions in the chat section, which I will try to answer either periodically during the presentation or at the end. But I really want you to just enjoy this for what it is. You don't need to take notes. What I'm trying to do is I'm talking to your heart, not your head. And I hope that I can manage to do that. So, what defines an educational leader? Is it an exceptionally good teacher? And this is where I miss not seeing you, because I'd like to see what your reaction is to this. Is it an exceptionally good teacher? Because we often find that very good teachers are promoted through the ranks, and they then become managers and in time leaders as well. So is it a very good teacher who becomes an educational leader? Or is it a policy implementer? As you heard in my CV, I work extensively with policy development, and the part of leadership is implementing the policies that are laid down. Or is it a developer of people? Is it about empowering other people to do good things and great things, as I explained to you in the document, in the lead-up? I'm just looking, there are people waiting in the waiting room and I have to let them in. How do I let them in?
Madam, you continue, madam. We'll take care, madam. Please.
I hope that they're in now.
No,
I
you
think
please
so.
you continue the presentation, madam.
Okay.
You continue the presentation.
And then, or is it a Democrat? Is it a person who believes in collective decision making and governance? Is that the definition of an educational leader? Or maybe it's a good collaborator. And we hear so much talk about teams and working in teams and inspiring teams and teamwork. And we expect our students to have the soft skill, to acquire the soft skill of being good team workers. Is that what a good educational leader is? Or is it just an experienced manager? Is it a manager with lots of experience that can take the department or the unit or the institution further in its seeking quality? Is it a good administrator? Maybe a good educational leader is a good administrator who is able to use their knowledge in order to coordinate and align and administer an institution. Or is it a change agent in an educational institution? Maybe it's not the head of the institution, but it's a change agent within the institution. Or is it a mystic, a person who's, because we talk about visionary leaders. So is it a mystic? Is it a person who can see into the future, who has some extraordinary abilities, who has some intuition, or what we might call sixth sense into this? I'm just trying to make sure that I am letting people in here, because I'm running it now. It seems to be. Or is it a person who can juggle, who can keep everybody happy at the same time and keep all the balls in the air and not drop one? What is it that defines educational leadership? And maybe if you'd like to use the chat facility, you can just jot down a few notes about what educational leadership is and what defines an educational leader. I haven't let people in here. Do you want me to hand back control so you can let them in?
No, you please continue, madam. Let you please complete it.
Sorry, I can't hear.
You please complete your presentation.
Right. So what is this that defines an educational leader? Is it a change agent? Is it a policy implementer? Is it a developer of people? Is it a team player? What is it that defines educational leadership? Now, here's my definition of leadership. These are clouds in the sky. I'm not going to define for you what educational leadership is. You can find, if you had to do a search, I think you'd come up with 100,000 hits on what the definition of leadership is. And in amongst those, you probably find a commonality of about more than 1,000 definitions. So what I'm going to do is, I want you to remember this photo of these clouds, and I want you to, during the course of this presentation, I'd like you to fill up those clouds with what you understand from my presentation leadership is. Because leadership means different things for different people. It means, it depends on your situation, it depends on your character, it depends on your outlook, your values, your thinking. But so I would like you to try, by the end of this, to have developed your own unique and personal understanding of what leadership is. But I'm going to help you. Okay, first of all, we've got some of the theories of leadership. And again, I could probably have had 20 or 30 columns with the different theories behind leadership. There's the behaviorist theory that believes that we respond to stimulus and we act in the face of stimulus. There's the great man theory, and that ties in with the inspirational leader theory, the last column as well, that there are certain great men who are born to leadership, and they are aspirational, they aspire, they lead other people to be inspired to achieve in the same way in which they have done. There's a situational theory that it's a situation that creates a leader. And a situation that a person finds themselves in might allow them the opportunity to become a leader. If they don't find themselves in that situation, does that mean that they would never be a good leader? Then we have the humanistic theory that leadership is about being good to other people, being a good person. And a lot of people subscribe to that. There's the transformational theory, and I was interested to see that the title of this conference mentions transforming practices to achieve quality outcomes. And a lot of what I'm going to say to you today is around transformation and how we transform our practices in order to achieve these quality outcomes. And then, as I said, the aspirational leadership, where people aspire to be like the leader that they see. So, as I said, there are many more than this. And these, I think, are possibly the most well-known and possibly the most obvious, and also some of the ones that I use in the rest of this presentation. So that's as much theory as you're going to get. Although we are going to talk about leadership types. Excuse me, just let me drink something. And there are different types of leaders. There's the moral, ethical leader who acts from a moral perspective. And when we talk about moral, we don't mean necessarily in terms of any religion or any prescribed theory. It's simply being a good person and acting in an ethical way. There's the democratic style of leadership, where there's shared governance between equals. So we see our working team members as equal partners, and the governance and decision-making practices are shared with them. We've got an autocratic leader, and I think we all can identify with at least one autocratic leader that's led us, that we've worked with in the past. Not always that pleasant. It's basically they tell the workforce or the staff what to do, and the staff are required to follow that. There's not much joint decision making, there's not much collaboration, but in some instances it gets the job done. I think that ties up quite well with the leadership style below that, leadership type, which is directing leadership, which is instructive. And perhaps that's what we as teaching staff do on a daily basis. We act in a directing leadership role where we are instructive to our students. There's also the transformational leadership, and this is where we see that there's a larger purpose and a larger vision, and we try to move the organization or the department toward that decision, that vision and purpose. A laissez-faire approach to leadership is basically everyone gets on and does what they feel like. And I think there are some organizations that operate like that. And I think lately we've had some excellent case studies of leadership in organizations like Facebook, Microsoft, where we've seen different styles of leadership and the effects that it's had on the workforce. And then there's the charismatic leader. We follow them because they're charismatic, they persuade us to do things, they coerce us into doing things that we might not necessarily always be comfortable with. But because of their highly persuasive character, we follow them. And I think as teachers, we will all have met one of those people. I remember in my early days of teaching, my second school principal was a charismatic leader. And if he called you into his office to give you a dressing down, he did it in such a polite and gentle way, although you never misunderstood what he meant, but he did it in such a polite and gentle way that you went out saying, "Oh, thank you for that, I appreciate it." And that's the kind of charismatic leader we're talking about. Right, now, they will also have lots and lots of quizzes. If you could put up your hands, I'd ask you, and you can think about it, how many people have been to a workshop where the facilitators try to determine what kind of leader you are by the use of a quiz? Okay, lots of these go around. I think it's the food of facilitators of leadership workshops. And we've got, for example, the compass points, and you find out whether you're an east, west, north, or south kind of leader. So there are 4 leaders, and based upon your answers to certain questions, you're categorized as either a south leader, or a west leader, or an east leader, or a north leader. Then we've got the animal one, where you identified as either a tiger, I would assume that's quite an aggressive type of leader, or a peacock that's always looking at their own vanity, or an owl who signifies wisdom. And all of these are an attempt to try and say what kind of leader you are. And then we've got the colors one. You might find that they put you down as a yellow leader. And as a yellow leader, you will have certain characteristics that you will display. As a blue leader, you'll have other characteristics. And as a red leader, you'll have other characteristics. And these are fairly simplistic approaches to defining leadership styles and types, largely because I don't think that any one person is one type of leader. I think that most of the great leaders that we see, and even the good leaders that we know, you will identify at least a few different types, different styles within their leadership. And it might change according to the circumstance, it might change according to the situation, but there's certainly a huge overlap in leadership. And obviously, everything I say about leadership is applicable to educational leadership. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn our focus onto 5 great individuals who have had a significant influence on education. Some of them you might recognize, some of them you might not recognize, okay? The first one is my hero, Nelson Mandela, Madiba, as he's known affectionately in South Africa. And he is one of the greatest leaders that the world has seen. Secondly, I think you'll recognize Mahatma Gandhi underneath. And Mahatma Gandhi also has a South African link. He was in South Africa fighting for social justice for many years. You might not be as familiar with the face on the top right-hand corner, although you should be, because he's the father, it's William Spady, and he's the father of outcomes-based education. And what are we all about? Outcomes-based education. And you'll see the portrait of the woman beneath him is a woman called Maria Montessori, and she is an Italian woman. She was a physician before she was an educator, and she challenged things that were happening in Italy in the 1880s and early 1900s. And then last but not least is Howard Gardner at the bottom, who gave to us the theories of multiple intelligences. And all these 5 people have all had a significant impact on the education, not only in their own countries, but throughout the world. And I'd like to look at the lessons that they teach us and see what comes from them that we can take forward into the lessons that I'd like to give you. Right. Now, first of all, we need to talk a little bit about the myths about leadership. Are all good managers good leaders? No, not necessarily. The skills and the roles of a manager are quite different to those of a good leader. A manager we would associate, and management, there's lots of theory and research that points to the differences between managers and leaders. And one may be a very good manager in terms of coordination and leading a team and supervising. But when it comes to actual leadership, possibly they don't have as much foresight and vision as they would need to have. This is not to say that good managers are not necessarily good leaders, but it's not a foregone conclusion. Leaders are born. You've heard this probably before. Oh, he's a born leader. He's a born leader. To some extent, we have to show leaders show a natural aptitude for leading, but at the same time, it's time, experience, and lots of reading and understanding that leads us to being a good leader. Leaders are extroverts, not always. That's the theory there we're challenging about the charismatic kind of leaders that are extroverts, and we follow them because they are highly persuasive, they're outgoing, they are able to command an audience, and that would lead to being a good leader. That's not necessarily the case. Sometimes the quiet ones are the ones that lead us to finding the quiet, thoughtful ones are the ones that lead us to seeing the vision of an organization. Should good leaders show vulnerability? And the myth is that they shouldn't. You should never show that you're weak. You should be the tiger leader, not showing that you're weak in any way, that you can confront whatever comes your way. And I think this kind of myth about leadership leads to uh, the view that leaders are firstly infallible. Leaders are not actually human beings, they operate on another plane. And this isn't true. Leaders can be as vulnerable as anybody else. They are human as we are, they have their ups and downs as we are, they have their life challenges as everybody else does. And it's possible to show vulnerability. Having a management position makes you a leader. If you think about the organization in which you work, are all the managers that are called managers good leaders? And I would challenge you if you say yes, but we have to look at what those characteristics of leadership are. And the next slide takes us on to do that. So we're going to look at these 5 individuals. And the first one is Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela was not a teacher. And there is a lot of debate about whether teachers, the educational leaders, should be teachers. A number of educational leaders today are not teachers. They have not actually taught. If you look at Bill Gates, he runs the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is a hugely influential educational initiative, but he wasn't a teacher. And we're starting to debate now, and if you look at the current debates on this, do we need people who've taught to be leaders of education? And we can think about a number of other instances in that regard. Nelson Mandela was not a leader, a teacher. In fact, he was a lawyer by trade, but he saw the power that education had to transform the world, South Africa at least. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. This is a well-known quote from Nelson Mandela, and it's because he saw the need for education, the value of education, and the way in which education can transform a classist society, a racist society, a elitist society. He saw the transformational power that education had for social justice. And you can see I very proudly put the South African flag there. We look at Mahatma Gandhi, and you probably can tell me a lot more than I can tell you. But Mahatma Gandhi fought for social justice, both in his home country and in South Africa. And he spoke about being the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And we're going to talk just now about a lesson in how you can lead by example. And I think Mahatma Gandhi is an excellent example, an excellent case study of how to lead by example. And he said, if you look at the quote at the bottom, live as if you were to die tomorrow. So live every moment to its full, but learn as if you were to live forever. And I think so long ago, that already brings up to mind our thinking about lifelong learning. That's another buzzword today, lifelong learning. That we don't learn for a period of time and then shut down our learning capacity and stay stagnant. No, we learn throughout our life. The next one is William Spady. And if you've got anybody to thank for outcomes-based education, it's William Spady, okay? He's also an American, and he is known as the father of outcomes-based education. And I think that outcomes-based education has percolated into so many different countries, in Australia, in Britain, in the States, obviously where he works, in South Africa, in New Zealand, and it's become a world phenomenon. And he was working with outcomes already in 1993, and where he said, outcomes-based does not mean curriculum-based with outcomes sprinkled on top. It's the transformative way of doing business in education. So he's saying it's not just about doing business as we always did it, where the curriculum drove the learning. In fact, it wasn't even the curriculum, it was the syllabus. We had the mighty syllabus that drove the curriculum. And if we asked, what do we teach our students? We would say, in a curriculum-based system, people would say, we teach them chapters 1, 2, and 3 of a psychology textbook. Chapter 1 is perception, chapter 2 is nature versus nurture, and chapter 3 is learning disability. That's not outcomes-based education. That's curriculum-based education with outcomes sprinkled on top. What he's saying is that looking at it at outcomes-based education is actually a transformative way of doing business in education, a changeable way. And he wrote this in 1993. And if we think about it, some institutions, some countries are still grappling to understand outcomes-based education and to implement it in 2020-21. Now, Howard Gardner was an interesting character. He said no, he challenged the view that there are a limited number of intelligences, and we usually used to talk about verbal and nonverbal intelligence. He said, no, that's not true. He said there are many more kinds of intelligence. There's body kinesthetic intelligence, there's interpersonal intelligence, there's visual intelligence. There's a whole lot more that makes up the intelligence and who people are. And he said in the quote, the biggest mistake of past centuries in teaching has been to treat all students as if they are variants of the same individual. So they've got two types of intelligence and they're in variations, and thus to feel justified in teaching them all the same subjects the same way. So he says that what we need to do is each person is unique in their own way. They have a unique combination of intelligences. They have unique levels of those different intelligences. And therefore, we have to treat them differently and treat them differently in the classroom and teach them in different ways. Okay? I wanted to say, so this was a huge challenge. This was a huge challenge to the existing understanding of what intelligence was. So these were groundbreaking pieces of research. And then we have Montessori, Maria Montessori. She was, as I said, a physician by trade. But what she did was she challenged the teacher-learner dynamic. And what she tried to do was to empower children to learn from and about their environments, and not necessarily to have to rely on teachers. And this came from her work in Italy in the 1800s, where she saw children that were left at home for long periods of time without any stimulus and without anybody teaching them. So what she aimed to do was to try and develop them through their own interaction through the environment. And what she challenged as well is the one-size-fits-all approach to teaching and learning. So in the same way that Gardner does, she says We cannot teach all students in the same way. One size doesn't fit all. And I think you'll appreciate that from going into clothing stores where it says free size, one size fits all, and it actually fits almost nobody. So an individualized approach where children were to learn at their own pace was what she recommended. So not only was it challenging the fact that we could teach students all in the same way and the same content, but she also challenged that we cannot teach students all at the same pace, that children learn at different stages. So what do we find out from these common leaders? Okay, what do we find in common? Firstly, in today's terms, they would be influencers. You know, on the social media, what an influencer is. They would have followers, and I'm sure that Spady has some followers. I'm sure that Gardner, who's still very active, has some followers. But Maria Montessori would also be an influencer. She's influenced the way we look at things. And you'll see in the orangey yellow circle on the first circle on the left-hand side, you'll see that all of these people challenged what exists, and they wanted to change what exists. So Nelson Mandela wanted to change the social injustices that he saw and that were manifest in education in particular, and to make it a more equitable society. In the same way, Montessori wanted to change the way we look at the dynamics between the teacher and the child, where the teacher is the holder of the information and the child is a receptacle into which we pour the information. All of them looked also at empowerment of people, empowering people to take charge of themselves and to be seen in a new light and to acknowledge and recognize that everybody's different, everybody learns at different paces, and in order to empower them, we have to acknowledge this. And quite interestingly, I'm just going to take a sip of my water. Quite interestingly, I think with the exception of Nelson Mandela, the other three are all very controversial, because if we look at them, we'll see that there is a lot of criticism of outcomes-based education that William Spady advocates. He was criticized in a number of different places and in a number of different ways, and the criticism of outcomes-based education is still around today. It is still not fully accepted, and it is highly controversial. Montessori was controversial in her time, and in our time, in the Montessori schools, she remains controversial, and Montessori education remains a controversial approach. Gardner, also, there's a lot of criticism about Gardner. If you Google Gardner, you'll see all the criticism that comes up about him. I don't think Mahatma Gandhi either was controversial in any way other within his own country. And all of them acknowledged the powerful role of education in uplifting society, and that's important. Each one of these leaders, in their own way, acknowledges that education is the instrument by which we can change society for the better. And each one of them had a vision. Nelson Mandela had a vision of an equitable society in South Africa. Mahatma Gandhi had a vision of an equitable society. Gardner had a vision of a society in which children are seen to in many dimensional ways, not just in a two-dimensional way. And his vision was for us all to see people in such a way. Montessori had a vision to see the change in education in terms of the dynamics of the teacher-pupil or the teacher-learner relationship. So these are all things that we would like to look at as characteristics that define good leaders. So it's the desire to challenge, it's the empowerment of people, the acknowledgement of the role of education and a vision, but it's not without controversy. And I think if you're going to be an agent of change, you have to acknowledge that controversy might be something you have to deal with. And I'd like you to think about this for a minute. Just dwell on this. Can you think of one example where a failing educational institution was turned around without talented leadership? And I can't. I cannot think. I think that my belief is that talented leadership is at the forefront of creating a quality educational institution. Think about that for a minute. Right, so we go on to the lessons. These are lessons I've learned from these leaders, but it's also something that I've engaged in and I've thought about a lot during my time as both a follower, a team player, and also a leader. And the first is live your values, okay? And this we might classify as moral or ethical leadership, where we act in an ethical way, we state our values, we set our standards, and we stick to them. Not only that, we actually articulate them, our values and our principles. For example, transparency. We hear a lot about transparency today, and a number of institutions have transparency as one of the values, the corporate values or the institutional values. Transparency, dealing with the students in a transparent way and ethical way, and dealing with the teaching staff in an ethical way, and all stakeholders in a transparent way that allows your motives and your interests and your values to be detected. Secondly, honesty. Act with honesty. Act with honesty in terms of how you're feeling about things, how you see the situation in your daily interactions with students. And that ties in with a statement that said, don't make false, empty promises. Try to keep your promises. If you promise students something, you should try and carry that out. And that's all about honesty and authenticity, being authentic and acting with integrity. Empathy, that we can actually feel what it's like to stand in somebody else's shoes and understand what they might be going through. And particularly in this time of COVID, I think that's really, really important. Our students, wherever they are in the world, are at a very difficult point in their lives. They are experiencing a lot of upheaval. They're trying to maintain their studies, and it's important that we try to empathize with us and give them as much support as we can. And fairness, being fair to everybody, treating everybody the same. If you're being polite, humble to everybody, from the person who delivers your tea to the door in the morning, to your dean or to the Minister of Education, if it might be. Everybody is treated with fairness. So in order to live your values, you have to act ethically in every possible way and be humble. And the quote from Edmondson, also a very popular theorist on educational leadership, the culture of the leader creates and impacts the feedback a leader receives. So what we're saying is that if you encourage transparency, honesty, empathy, fairness, and there might be others, integrity, then the feedback that you get will be of the same kind. Lesson 2. lead by example. Okay, so that was the quote we said, be the change you want to see in the world. If you want to see a change in the world, you have to show that in your daily actions. And the John Wooden said, the most powerful leadership tool you have is your own personal example. And this lead by example is about guiding people through your behavior and inspiring them to be like you. And this again is an example of a type of moral or ethical leadership. Why is it important? Well, the research says that it leads to more loyal and happier employees. And that's what we want, loyal and happy employees. If our teaching staff are loyal and happy, then we've got a good institution. It creates a benchmark for what you expect from your team without saying it. So, for example, try to make a point of always being on time to start a meeting, or even a few minutes before. People start to notice that, and it sets a benchmark for your team. I can't be late. My manager or my team leader is never late for meetings. I can't be late for a meeting. And also, if you, in terms of following the regulations, if staff see that you're prepared to ignore rules and regulations, then they see that as a benchmark for what you will allow them to do. So it goes down to parking in the right place at your place of work. It goes to trying to stick to deadlines. It goes from small trivial things like your parking space to deadlines to benchmarking a work ethic amongst your staff. And what it does is it creates a foundation of trust where you trust your team and they trust you and they trust themselves. If you know that staff are not going to be late for meetings, that we've set a priority to be at meetings on time, then you don't have to phone around before a meeting and say, will you be at the meeting? Will you be on time? Please be on time, because they know that that's the expectation. It's the same as answering student emails. Some staff get loaded with emails from these students. And I think the COVID situation has in some ways exacerbated the amount that we have to make ourselves accessible to our students. And students, we've come to accept that students contact us many times during the course of a day. And we need to show students that we respect that and by answering them promptly. So if you say that, well, I don't need to answer my student for at least 3 or 4 days, because when I send my own manager a message, an email, he or she doesn't respond for at least 3 or 4 days, then that's the benchmark you're creating. So it's to live your values and to lead by example. How do you do that? And it's easier enough said than done. How do we achieve this? And you'll see I've put all verbs and I've put them in red. Come to work with energy and positive attitude and commitment. If you don't come to work, if you appear at work as a leader, and you appear at the university or the college and you always show that you lack energy, you lack commitment, you don't have a very positive attitude, then that will be the example that your team follow. Work alongside your team. And this is something I've always tried to stick to. I try not to leave the office before my team members have left. There are odd occasions where it's necessary, you have a medical appointment or you need to do something urgently, but I think it shows some kind of example to your staff when I don't like to ever leave my staff working on something that I could assist them with. Accept accountability. I think this is very important. Do not try and shift the blame. If there's something that's gone wrong in your department or your institution, accept the accountability for it. Accept what is given to you, the accountability that's required from you, that's expected from you in the circumstance as a leader. Put trust in your team. Don't micromanage a team that is doing well, that is managing their work, that is managing their time, that is keeping to deadlines. Put your trust in them and let them show their best. Listen to your team. That's very important. To have sessions where you listen to your team and you find out if there are obstacles or if there are challenges that they're experiencing or anything, any way in which you can make things better. And I think it's also important to show your team that you also have room to grow. And that's by attending workshops, attending training sessions with them. And sometimes I will attend a training session just to show that, not just to show, but because I believe that there's always something I can learn from a presentation. There's always room for us to grow. And it's important for our teams and our staff to see that. And, you know, I think there's a well-known quotation on LinkedIn, going around LinkedIn at the moment, that says that people don't quit companies, they quit bad managers. If you ask most people the reason why they are quitting, sorry?
Excuse me, ma'am. Will you be able to close, ma'am? The time is up. The other speakers are waiting, madam. Please.
Is it
Other speakers are waiting.
My time nearly up? Is my time nearly up?
No, no. How much time will take, ma'am, further? How much time do you need further? How much time do you need further?
So I need another maybe 10 minutes top.
No, please try to close it, madam. Other speakers are waiting. Please.
Okay.
Please. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of accountability, I think we should note that good leaders take more than their share of accountability and less than their share of the credit. Okay. Thirdly, be a change agent and embrace the discomfort, right? Change brings with it uncertainty, and it's the fear of loss of what change will have. So it's natural to feel somewhat discomfortable about change. And you'll see the quote at the bottom. It's quite an interesting one. Change is difficult. Not changing is fatal. In other words, unless you're prepared to change with the times, you will face extinction. It's a recipe for disaster if you try to maintain everything without changing it. But in order to mitigate against the fears and the uncertainty that people have about change, we should really try to understand why change is so necessary. We need to explain to people, we're changing this because, we're changing this policy because, we're changing this structure because, we're changing the terms of reference for this committee because, we're changing the teaching and learning policy because, and that helps people to accept and to buy into the changes. Okay, and the next lesson is to reflect on your own performance and practice. And this helps you to understand who you are and what your values are. And you are able to evaluate your own performance realistically. And it must be realistic. And the last point says, it makes people look beyond their own egos. And I think that's very important. When we're in positions of authority and in leadership roles, we can very often overlook our own performance and an evaluation of our own performance. And I think that the most accurate evaluation of one's performance is your own insights into where you are doing well and where you are not doing well. And it also allows you to question your motives, and it gives a leader perspective. Have a vision. People buy into leadership before they buy into vision. So if a good leader has a good vision, people will buy into that vision because they are a good leader. And so they imbibe the visionary approach that the leader will have. A visionary is planning for the future with wisdom, okay? So people who we say are visionary means they foresee, they look into the future and they see what might happen in the future. And they try to plan for that with informed decisions, with data that supports the decisions that they're making. And the little cartoon on the left-hand side, you'll see that it's going to see and having a telescope to look out in order to see the potential of an institution or a department, and to say, this department, this institution has potential to do well. What do we need to do in the future? This institution can be great in the future. What do we need to do? We then have to convey this to the team, and we have to include staff in a collaborative manner. We cannot leave staff out. Once we know that what that vision is, we need to share it and encourage them to enjoy it with us. And we need to be persistent, we need to be bold, and we need to be inspirational. And I think the boldness is important. We need to go out there and to make changes in a way that is bold and large in terms of what we want to do. So that's important, is to be bold, persistent, keep at it, do not ever give up, and inspirational. So you inspire others. And the last lesson is that we should all celebrate success. There are things that stop us from celebrating success, and these might include the following. This poor chap is sitting and he's putting forward some ideas about how we could celebrate success. The first chap on the left-hand side says, we don't have budget to spend on celebrations. These are difficult times. And the woman on the far right says, our staff are relatively well paid, and that is sufficient. And the person next to her says, where will we find time to have a celebration event? So it's time, it's money, it's effort. And the poor guy sitting, putting his proposal forward says, oh dear, excuses, excuses. We've heard them all before. So let me give you a few ideas about how we can celebrate success without it necessarily costing a fortune. Firstly, to celebrate success, it helps to keep staff motivated. So if we've had a small success, the kind of celebration that will motivate them, hopefully, to continue in the same vein. But any celebration must be authentic and not be seen as going through the motions. So you don't want people rolling their eyes and going, oh goodness, here we go again. The dean's favorite list comes out, and the usual people that get it are celebrated, and the rest of us sit here. It shouldn't be seen to be something that's just done for the sake of it. It should be something that's authentic, it's heartfelt, it's sincere, and it comes from the bottom of our heart. We can also celebrate small wins. Not everything has to be in bright lights and with large expenses. And one little example I can share with you is that we have, outside our dean's office, we have a list of our students who are on the dean's list for that semester. Their names are listed there. And I haven't spoken to the students themselves about how they feel about this, but I can tell you if I were one of those students, I would be jolly proud to have my name up on that board outside the dean's office. And if I wasn't on that list, I would work very hard to try to get onto that list. It's a small celebration that didn't cost a lot of money. So not all celebrations have to cost money, but we need to celebrate what we want to see more of. What do we want to see more of? And we need to celebrate those things. And finally, I want to leave you with a quotation from Nelson Mandela. It is not beyond our power to create a world in which all children, and here I've inserted learners, whether they are children, whether they are young adults, teenagers, whether they are young adults, but which all children have access to a good education. Those who do not believe this have small imaginations. And I think that's what we're working toward, giving every child the best possible education that we can. In thanks, I'd like to say thank you to the organizers for the invitation, for the confidence in me, and for the support to give this presentation, get this presentation to air. And I'd like to thank my colleague Shaima Al-Hajmi for the graphics that she's developed and which have been used in this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll stop share. Okay, I'm back.
Thank you, ma'am, for your inspiring speech towards educational leadership. I request participants to turn on the video for virtual group photo taken by our organizer. Participants, please turn on your video. Thank you all.
Question? No?
Sir, have you taken?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Moving on, now I'm elated to take an opportunity to welcome and introduce our second speaker of the day, Dr. C. Sundar. Dr. C. Sundar, currently designated as Dean, College of Science and Humanities, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram, Chennai, is visionary, highly trained, versatile, and passionate professional who has over 23 years of experience in all aspects of educational institution management, and he is known for his uniqueness and leadership qualities. He is an expert in the field of career development, entrepreneurs' work-life balance, and human resource management. He was invited by the UNIS University of Brazil as an expert speaker on disruptive technology. He presided over many international and national conferences, participated in board of studies, and various educational activities. Dr. Sundar has published more than 60 research articles in reputed journals and is also the editor-in-chief of renowned journals. He conducted personality development program for engineering and management students across India. In addition, he has organized various workshops, FDP, and orientation program for faculty. Dear professors, I am pleased to welcome Dr. C. Sundar sir to take over the session on educational leadership essential. Welcome, sir. The floor is open and yours.
First and foremost, I assure you that I won't take much time. Professor Lee explained in detail about the educational leadership in all perspectives, in all dimensions. Distinguished speakers of the day, a distinguished organizing committee of SEED, my dear participants, very happy evening to all. I'm not going to present in a formal way. Here, I'm going to share about my personal experience related to educational leadership. First and foremost, I congratulate and appreciate the organizer of Day1-7th International Conference on educational leadership, which is a need of the hour. So previously, the leadership will talk about only in the corporate circle. So leaders, a leadership development program, everything will happen in the corporate world. But now this is the time to empower all the faculty and the people involved in the education to develop the leadership qualities. I was belong to the world renowned university, SRM IST, SRM Institute of Science and Technology. As you all aware that so SRM presents across the country and it's doing a world-class education to the student community. I am taking SRM itself as a case study for educational leadership. SRM has started in the year 1969 as a small primary school in Chennai city. In the late 1980, the government announced there is a scheme for the private people to start up the education engineering college. Our management, it's a proactive thinker and the visionary, and they took this opportunity and they started SRM Engineering College in the year 1985. Once they started, they provide the quality engineering education so that they attracted so a lot of good talent comes in and we produce a lot of good engineers. They are working across the globe and reputed institute. In the early 2000, again, there is an opportunity. So most of the engineering college, they can move towards the university status. Again, our management have the proactive thinker and it's a very good leader in terms of education. They utilize the opportunity. So we converted from engineering college to the university status. In the same year, lot of very good engineering college in Chennai, they are hesitant to move towards the university. Only few engineering college, they taken this bold step, they convert, they move to the university. So it's kind of leadership capacity and capability of the management. And we moved to the university status and we started the multiple program. So right from engineering technology, management, law, medical, arts and science, why not all the program, it's a multi-stream private university. And the major outcome, what we learn from our management, it's utilizing or grabbing the opportunity at the right time. So as an educator now during the pandemic or the previous the pandemic, so we should develop the leadership. Now there is a necessity of the educator should develop or should make the leadership skills. So what do you mean by leadership skills? So Lee has explained in a different perspective. So my thing is influential people are proactive thinking, are leading, are transforming the environment. So we can list out anything for the leadership. And who will be a good leader? So now she's also informed the difference between the leader as a manager, but a leader who leads and who set example himself to others. And see how to professional competency and the professional knowledge. So that criteria is much more needed for the good leader, and that too for educational sector, we need this skill set. It's one of the most important. So we should develop and we should grasp the professional knowledge and professional competency. So this skill set will lead to take a very good decision. As a leader should take a very good decision at the right time. For taking a good decision, we should have the professional competency and professional knowledge. Again, that it leads to a continuous learner or upgrade yourself or upskill yourself. Then only you can able to guide or lead others. So continuous learning also one of the primemost characteristics of a good leader. So here we are seeing now we are dealing with millennial generation. So millennial generation, since the students born after 2000, we call them as a millennial, so Z category. So XYZ is that we are dealing with those generation people. We have to be, so we have to be in a position to meet out, so we have to develop, to meet out or to manage those students. So all the education, all the educationists, all the educational people, so we have to develop the leadership capacity. So unless otherwise, if you are not a good leader, so we could not able to manage those set of students at present. I hope the people, those are participants today, you are well known and well experienced how to manage the current generation student. They know, so now knowledge is available everywhere. So within your fingertips, they have the knowledge. So we have to how to manage those set of students. So only thing is, now we cannot say that the leadership lies only on the management. So leadership only lies on the senior administrator like principal or the director of the institution. So now the leadership lies on even the faculty member. So faculty also, you have to develop the leadership capacity and to execute. So whatever the plan, whatever the vision, whatever the mission of the institution, the real executor, the faculty member. The faculty are the roots of the institution. So we are giving prime most importance to the faculty member. So rather than the senior administrator like principal or the director. So they will has an administrative role more, but the faculty, you have to do the administrative teaching. So both way to manage the classes, to meet out the student needs and to produce the good student. So how we can able to measure the good leadership in education? So how we can say that this particular principal is a good leader, so this particular director is a good leader? How we can able to measure? So in terms of result or in terms of placement, how we can able to measure? So we can measure the good leader in terms of student outcomes. So how we can able to differentiate one quality good institution or another institution, it's not providing the quality, only in terms of student outcomes. So the purpose of the educational institution, namely, we are admitting the student, we are teaching learning, and we are sending the student as a graduate. So what next? So already we know the terminology. So outcome based education, OBE. So now all the accrediting agency, now they are seeing that outcome based education for giving of accreditation or giving of ranking or further any. So the student outcome is the right way to measure the good leader as a principal, good principal, or the good the director. So for that we have to produce a lot of other factor is involving. So the student outcome in the, now we can see yesterday or day before yesterday, so a chance to see in the newspaper. So now in Tamil Nadu, lot of engineering colleges, they are applying for closure. So now they are in a position to close. A lot of around 600 engineering colleges there. So out of 600, 40 to 45 engineering college, they submitted their application to closure. So what is meant? And a few, because of the low student admissions, there is they are failed to attract the student in admission. So what made them? The same thing again we are seeing some other institution, they are attracting lot of students, they're interested to join in those institutions. So SRM is one of its kind. So the admission is going full swing. The students are made craze to enter into SRM. So what made this difference? There's one side, few institute that are attracting more number of admission. So one side, a few institute, they are failed to attract student, or student are not shown interest to join in those colleges. So what is the difference between? So the difference between the leadership of the management, leadership of the administrator, and the leadership of the faculty member. So that makes the difference. So those two faculty, those institute, so fail to run or to fail to meet out the final objective, it lies only on the leadership capability and capacity of these team, those people involved on those institutions. So they fail to proactively think, or they are failed to make themselves as a unique from others, or they are failed to empower the faculty, or they fail to empower the student community, so that they are losing from the race and they are out of the race. So few institute, they are concentrate on this aspect. So they're doing very well, and still in this tough competition, so they are doing better. So once, as I said that SRM as a case study, so we entered in a university. So again, we get an ABET accreditation, so American Board of Engineering and Technology. So only few institutions in India, they got ABET. So whatever the thing, so we can move forward. So immediately we thought and we can be able to make it. So as a faculty, rightly said, the faculty is a root. So we here will give a faculty leadership training. So Leadership Management Institute is there. So they will come and they will give training of our own faculty. So how to develop the leadership, even for the new entry faculty. So we try to give leadership qualities or training to those newly entry, and those faculty working more years of experience, more years with us. So automatically they will create such kind of ecosystem and conducive environment, so they can develop themselves. So the thing is how we can able to measure only the student outcome. So our student, they are performing very well in the terms of industry as they got placed in the placement, and also they are doing very well in terms of entrepreneurship, and also they are doing very well in terms of higher education. So three parameter we divided, and we'll see the performance of student. So we will not stop only admitting the student, so giving of teaching and making them as a graduate. And once they placed, and they will send them out to the industry, will not stop them. We'll also go to the industry and we'll find out the feedback from the employer, from the HR or from the line manager, how our students are performing very well. So in what way we have to do the improvement. The same thing will get the input. Again, we will get the information, we'll put as an input, again we'll do the process. So continuous improvement is the most important parameter what we adopt in SRM. So as an educationist, and that too for future down the line, another 5 to 6 years, so a lot of changes is going to be happen. So now we are facing in the pandemic, most of the educational institution, we move to the online education. So a lot of challenges. There is a digital divide. So the rural people least chance to get the access of technology. The urban people, they have somewhat, they have access to the technology. So a lot of digital divide is happening. So this digital divide happening of a divide between the rural and urban. So urban people, they have more access and they have use of technology, but rural people, they have very less chance. But as an educational leader, so we have to think in such a way that, so how to minimize the gap, so how to make our rural people, a rural student also to get the same kind of quality education among the others. So once all the educationists will convert it into a good leader, so we'll see a problem as an opportunity. So we'll see we'll face all the issues and critique so very challengingly, and will convert so this in a very good conducive environment. So at this juncture, educational leadership is the most important thing. So as a part of, we are in the good reputed institution, so we also take some kind of social awareness. So you have to do something to create a good leader, not only focusing on the private institution. So we have to focus on the government or the rural people to develop, so that the overall the country will develop and we can able to meet out. So the best example is still we are proudly says that, so we are 134 crore population country. Still we are in the developing nation. If you take top 200 institution, so only few tier 1 like IIT and IIC, they are listed out in those category. But still a lot of other more than 1,000 universities are there, but we have failed to enlist or enmark in that particular category. So a lot of things to be work out. So this kind of conference will provide a way and path to the young educationist, and those are aspiring towards the educationist. So definitely it will provide a valuable, because so other next lot of a good eminent speaker are there to talk about the educational leadership, how we can able to develop and implement in the educational sector. So my humble suggestion to all the participants, and the organizer. So we have to conduct a series of activity to develop our people, those who are belong to not only for the private sector. So even we have to concentrate so more on the government as well as the rural area. So we have to do the best for making empowering the rural principal or the rural faculty member, so that more number of students they are going to the rural school compared to the urban. Probably 60% of students constitute in the rural. So once if we empower the rural principal and the rural school teacher as a good educational leader, so definitely the India will reach out its goal, or it's move to the next level of a developed nation. So education is a root. So we have to safeguard the root. So if you lose the root, then automatically the entire tree or entire everything will be fall. So we are missed that chance. We are not thinking on that line. We are not aligning our thinking in that line. So that only a lot of issues arises due to this way. So this kind of conference definitely it will strengthen the root, the entire root. So automatically the tree, the country as a tree will develop and grow in an effective way. So once again, I thank the organizer for giving an opportunity, especially to our well-wisher, Dr. Pragadiswaran sir, and my colleague, Dr. Ashokan sir, and another well-wisher, Dr. Uday Kumar sir. So providing an opportunity to present my experience and my observation so during this kind of educational leadership. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring speech and sharing your experience. Participants, please turn on your video for group photo session. Participants, please turn on your video.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, now I'm elated to take an opportunity to welcome and introduce our third speaker of the day, Dr. Indu Rao. Dr. Indu Rao, currently designated as Professor and Director ASC at VIT and Institute of Eminence by Government of India. She has a unique combination of an international, multidisciplinary, industry and academic background with 2 PhD degrees, one from the Faculty of Behavioral Management and Social Science, University of Twente, Netherlands, and second from Faculty of Management Studies, MLSU, India. Dr. Indu Rao is a postdoctoral fellow of IIM Ahmedabad and ABD, Management and International Business from College of Business, Florida, USA. MBA from IGNOU and BE Electrical from NIT Jaipur, India. She is created with the design and execution of innovation technology enabled system in higher education, teaching, research, administration, and industry institute collaboration for 3 decades. She worked for multinational companies for 7 years before joining academics. For her significant contribution, she has received several international and national awards from industry, academics, and government. Dear professors, I am pleased to welcome Dr. Indu Rao ma'am to take over the session on the NEP challenges for educational leaders. Welcome, ma'am. The floor is open and yours.
Thank you, Aarti.
Ma'am.
I just want to confirm that I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're audible, ma'am.
And shall I also test if I can share my screen, because I have prepared a PPT for the
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You please let me know when you are able to see full screen.
Yes, ma'am. Will do, ma'am.
Aarti, can you see full screen?
No, ma'am, it is not visible.
Then what I have to do?
Just click share screen, your entire window.
I clicked share screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing, it says.
I'm sorry, someone
To make me a co-host, I think, first.
Sir?
Yeah, you are the host, madam. You can share the screen now.
No, sir. It is like Indra Kumar has been marked as a host. Please climb again and make ma'am as host, sir.
Okay.
Ma'am, now you can try, ma'am.
Okay. I'm just checking once again.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, press and share screen, ma'am.
Is it
yes.
visible?
Yes, ma'am. Visible, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, is it full screen?
No, ma'am. Just give a yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now it is visible fully.
Okay.
Thank you.
So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for selecting such a wonderful topic, which is so relevant, the NEP 2020 Challenges for Educational Leaders. I also join all the speakers who presented before me in thanking the hosts for organizing it wonderfully. So it's not just the title, it's also you have selected speakers from different places. I also welcome and thank all the participants who are today. In India, it is the evening, and I'm sure the other places, other countries, you would be having some different time. But welcome all of you. It's my honor and pleasure. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me an opportunity to be in this gathering of such esteemed speakers, organizers, and participants who are passionate about the educational world. I'm sure each one of us who is here today believes in the power of education. Otherwise, on an evening, one would not get together to discuss such a topic. I am professor and director at Academic Staff College, VIT. VIT is an institution of eminence in southern part of India. Institution of eminence is one of the series of new policies that the government has initiated in the last few years. They are trying to bring up the quality of our educational institutions so that we can reach somewhere in the top 200 or top 500 in the world rankings. For that, they have selected, based on some criteria, 10 public institutions and 10 private institutions. I'm lucky to be part of this esteemed institution currently. And what we are doing here is we have about 2,500 faculty, very smart, very competent faculty. We are addressing exactly what is of concern. We are making efforts towards faculty development, because faculty is the pillar of the educational institutions. And when we talk about educational leaders, I think there is leadership from the bottom up. And faculty who joins first any institution, and when a faculty goes to a class of like 60 students, I think that faculty is a leader there, because that faculty is the one person who gets a chance to inspire those 60 students during the entire semester. And our faculty does all the outcomes that are required for our educational system. Our faculty does teaching, our faculty does research, our faculty does consultancy, our faculty does counseling, mentoring, and our faculty establishes international collaborations. And all of these things are listed in the NEP 2020. And that is the focus of NEP 2020. So if we have to do something today in the world of education and to improve the education, we have to make sure that the quality of our faculty goes up and meets the requirement for the NEP 2020. Now, why I have chosen this topic? Because National Education Policy 2020 actually was established after a round of consultations at the state level, at the district level. And inputs were taken from educationists all across the country over a period of 4-5 years. I myself was honored to be part of one of the state level consultations when I was an officer on special duty at GTU. And that was 2015. So I can say that with confidence. And what inputs we have given, somewhere we have seen they reflect. And they have really taken pains to do this. Now, a policy once made, it is good to have a policy that captures the dreams and aspirations of all the people in the country, but it's a bigger challenge to implement that policy. And that challenge will be addressed through educational leadership. So we will start with I will quickly talk about what is the history of this NEP 2020 in our country. What are the salient features? Where is the higher educational institution? We have to understand more clearly what is the higher education institution context. What are the constraints? What are its constituents? What is the purpose of education? And what is the challenge? What is the focus that educational leaders need to have so that we can face the challenges of what is required for our country, for all of us to grow, for all of us to be happy, peaceful, prosperous, and to lead better life. After that, I will give you 4 examples of how it can be done, what I have tried to do over my career of 30 years. So I will talk about what we are doing currently in the country, taking the history of it, what is the purpose, where we are standing today, and also some examples of how these challenges can be addressed. This is a short history that 1947 India got independence. 1948 to 49, we had the University Education Commission, 50 to 53, the Secondary Education Commission, 61 NCERT, 64 to 66, UGC and the Kothari Commission. 1968, the first national policy was dedicated to the country. The purpose was radical restructuring to achieve national integration and greater cultural and economic development. 1986, see, it took a long period. The second national policy on education for special emphasis on the removal of disparities and to equalize educational opportunity. This policy, framed in 1986, was modified in 1992. So we don't say that it was the next national education policy, but it was modified. So in a way, in 2020, you see that it's after a very long time that we have come up with the national education policy. And it has come up after deliberations with many people over a period of 4-5 years. That in 2019, the first draft was shared with educationists, and then again there was a round of discussions. And finally, on 29th July 2020, this policy was given to the country. And it is the duty of all of us educationists to see that we are able to implement it. So NEP 2020 is not one leader sitting at the top or an education minister or somebody who has given it to us. And it is being planned with the consultation process with all stakeholders. And this ministry has communicated to all states and UT governments for implementation of NEP 2020 in letter and spirit. This is that privilege that I had received in 2015 to speak my views. Now let us see what are the salient features or salient points of NEP 2020. Achieving 100% youth and adult literacy. So now we are not talking that education is important, we should start our education institutions. Those were the focus point when we got independent. We wanted to increase the number of educational institutions. We wanted to reach out to all of them. Now we are saying we want 100% youth and adult literacy. GER, we are trying for 50% gross enrollment ratio. The Ministry of Education, in order to bring the focus back on education, we have changed the name of MHRD to MOE, Ministry of Education. We want to ensure universal access at all levels of schooling from primary school to grade 12. Now there is a new curricular and pedagogical structure that 10+2 is getting replaced by 5+3+3+4. There will be no hard separations between arts and sciences, between curricular and extracurricular activities, between vocational and academic streams. I see this is a very, very important thing. We might be talking amongst ourselves, amongst friends, or sometimes in the school, students will talk, then once they go out of the school, they will forget. But for a long time, we have been thinking that these disciplines have to mix. We cannot be specialists in one field, like somebody starts with physics and completes everything right from the school to the undergraduation, post-graduation, PhD, postdoc, everything in physics, and then the application he misses somewhere. Yes, so there have to be some kind of an intermingling between arts and sciences, music, social sciences, organizational science, behavioral science, life sciences, all of these different fields or the different disciplines. Emphasis on promoting multilingualism and Indian languages. They say that students understand best in their mother tongue. Yes, so the medium of instruction until at least grade 5, but preferably till grade 8 and beyond, will be the home language, mother tongue, local language, regional language. And each of these points comes with a challenge. Each of these points comes with a challenge. So we want to have a robust and transparent process for recruitment of teachers and merit-based performance. Now, if I just talk on this one point, we can talk for 1 hour, because each one of us will have experiences of what is the process for recruitment of teachers and what is merit-based performance and where we are finding a challenge. If we have to give marks from 1 to 10, how well we are doing currently, and what all we need to do so that we are able to just, if one of these points can be done better, like if there is a robust and transparent process for recruitment of teachers, and if the performance is truly merit-based promotion, merit-based appointment of leaders, vice chancellors, HODs, that itself would change a lot in the way education is delivered and the outcomes of education system. Ensuring availability of all resources through school complexes and clusters. See, this is a dream. This policy is a dream. Yes, and we should not question that this is not possible. We should see what we can do, even if to 10% or 20% we can realize it. Increasing the gross enrollment ratio in higher education to 50%. At least 50% of our people should be enrolled in higher education. They should get a chance to get higher education. Now, holistic multidisciplinary education with multiple entry-exit options. There is so much, there is a world inside this one sentence. Holistic education. Multidisciplinary. We have not encouraged entry of multidisciplinary people into our education system. Say, for example, we had engineering and MBA. If a graduate, if a student does engineering and MBA, we would say this person is best suited to go to the industry. And it was happening. It was happening. Our universities have traditionally invited, encouraged, and given recognition to people who are specialists in one discipline. Everything, all policies are linked with somebody who has one discipline as the in that person's CV. So if you talked inside the college or in closed doors, little would be heard. But now that the NEP 2020 says it, at least there is a policy, there is a backing from the government which is democratically elected, and then we can say with confidence that this is how it has to be, and we have to create some norms of getting in people who are multidisciplinary background. At least I would say the leaders of the institutions should definitely have a multidisciplinary background, because if they have a multidisciplinary background, they will create governance structures, systems, policies, practices inside the institution, which will encourage this kind of a holistic and multidisciplinary education. Multiple entry-exit options. Students, it's a good thing. You know, it's like a student does not have to feel suffocated in one institution once he or she gets an admission. So there is a credit bank, academic bank of credit. One can take credit somewhere. Go. Easier said than done. See, we are still discussing, even in our university, we are discussing what will be the fallout of these things. Because with a lot of effort, we are doing this admission process. And today, if in a 4-year BTech course, some students enter, and then next year if somebody wants to go out and somebody from outside wants to come in, there will be a lot of disturbance. There will be a lot of disturbance. Yes, it looks very good that a student is happy, one can go from here and there and, can experience different institutions. I have myself experienced different institutions around the world, and it's great. I mean, your personality changes, your exposure, the way you look at world, everything changes. So we want all our children to get that kind of exposure, but it is a challenge. Setting up of multidisciplinary education and research universities, they have given it a name, MARU, internationalization of education. Now the world is connected. Yes, there is COVID-1 and 2, and we don't know there will be COVID-3, but still people will move around, and ICT and these social media, everything, they have bridged all the barriers across cultures. I have seen in different places. Once I was traveling, and in between I had a stop for 3 hours in a country called Bahrain, and there were all these women with their veils, and I saw that everyone was having a phone and they were connected to the world. So it will be a global scenario. It will continue to remain, and our education and educational universities cannot stay localized. We can give value, we can take care of the local culture and the local requirements, but still we need our education to be international. We need to encourage faculty. When many of our Indian faculty are abroad teaching, they're doing so well, but there is a lot of challenge for them to come in. I have many colleagues, I have a large network of academicians around the world, but it's very difficult for them to come back and get integrated. Sometimes our own teachers are not allowing them to come because of insecurity or whatever reasons. Sometimes they are good in research, we are not good in research, but somehow we have to encourage this internationalization of education. And it is a good way if we are able to send our teachers abroad, send our students abroad, get the students from the other countries to our universities, and also get faculty from different universities to our universities. Teacher education, that is the faculty development which I spoke about, and the NEP says 4-year integrated state-specific, subject-specific Bachelor of Education. Establishing a national mission for mentoring. Mentoring and counseling is a very important aspect. There was a time when teachers would not be seen in the campus. They would come take the class and go away. Now we have reached a stage where the teachers are expected to stay on the campus. Sometimes there are residential campuses. Sometimes they use a biometric or something that you have to stay for like 8 hours or 7 hours in the campus. And the students can come and meet you. And they have to do this mentoring and counseling. Many universities have adopted the policy that they give 4 or 5 students to one faculty for mentoring, and they have to handhold that person and that student until he or she passes out of the university. But to what extent it is happening in the spirit that we have created these policies or practices or systems, that still remains a challenge. And needless to say that faculty are having so much work to do themselves, that how they will be able to take care of all these things, that itself is a challenge. There are many government schemes. So I will not read each one of them, but government has also has listed and conceptualized several schemes to promote all these things that we just discussed. Now, in my opinion, I have extracted something from all of this. Where should be the focus for educational leaders? And I say there are 3 very important things that educational leaders should concentrate on. So first of all, I would say industry. Because I have myself done my first PhD thesis was titled Operational Efficiency of Higher Education, Technical Higher Education Institutions. And that was 20 years ago. And I had written then, and hardly anyone listened to me or took note of it at that point of time. But now I am very happy that NEP 2020 mentions it clearly. I defined operational efficiency of a technical education institution as the extent to which our institution prepares the student for the profession that he or she is going to serve. Your efficiency is not how much fees you get, how many graduates you churned out, how many people got placement, how many marks they get, who is the topper, who is the ranking. It is to the extent to which you prepare the graduates for the profession that he or she is going to serve. And how will you do this? You want the graduates to be employable. You want the graduates to be industry ready. You want them to be skilled. First, I ask a question. How many of our teachers are industry ready? How many of our teachers are employable by the industry? How many of our teachers have the skill sets that are required by the industry? If we are thinking about answering this question, then the next question is, how do we make sure that these teachers will make the students industry ready? So fundamentally, there is a problem. Now, where is the problem? Going back to one of those statements which I said, recruitment of faculty. We have not recruited faculty or given them the due recognition to the faculty who came from the industry. We have started something called a professor of practice, but that is somebody who has served for almost the entire career in the industry, and then is coming, and the person is detached from the academia. In fact, recently we had this industrial connect meeting. I'm a member of this. Some 20 women leaders have made a group, and we were doing this. We called one of the IM directors, and we called one person from the from I think Deloitte or somewhere, and both of them were talking. And 1 hour they spoke, and they said these are two completely separate things. It's very hard to come together. Academicians feel that we know. We read books and we know. Industry people say we do. Now the point is we want our students to know how to do. Yes, knowing how to do or knowing by doing is what is bridging the gap. And we want our students to be knowing what to do when they go to the industry. So what industry expects today at the best is, okay, nothing, you just prepare a good human being skill sets we will teach once they come to our industry. But the way it can be solved is, if we have, and I'm not saying people who have completed their entire working career in the industry, if we have people who have so for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years in the industry, why can't we bring them and give them good positions in our universities? We have to if you have to implement this policy of bridging the gap and creating industry-ready graduates, we have to bring people from the industry. Our teachers, they start their career with the book and they retire reading the books. How do we expect them to become industry-ready? There is no provision for teachers to go for an internship in an industry. We send the students for an internship, and at the end of it, they come with a certificate. Sometimes they have a nice vacation. Sometimes they copy-paste. This is not how an industry-ready graduate will be prepared. We'll have to have teachers not just coming as guest lecturers. In fact, I will refer to that same state level consultation which was happening in 2015 when NEP policy, I made this recommendation, and there were people who were like vice chancellors and aspiring to be vice chancellors. They said, no. Industry people can come and go take lecture and go. We have to safeguard the jobs of our teachers. Yes, so that mindset has to change. We have to bring, if we want to be industry ready, we have to get industry experienced people into our mainstream education. I'll give an example. I worked for 7 years in multinational. I started as an executive, and I was working in the electrical industry when I started teaching, because as a woman, it happened. So I'm saying it with example. It just happened that I took to teaching, but I started loving it, and so I started doing it. I had seen the industries and projects coming up in different parts of the country. And when I started teaching how machines, transformers, switchgear, they work, the same electromagnetic waves, which were so boring during my student time, the same books, because I had good marks and I had campus placement in there, but the same text became so different after I had served in the industry. And I started loving that, oh, this is how the machines rotate, this is how the entire infrastructure, the industry structure runs. And what is written in the books has so much meaning, because you can connect it to the real life industry, the real applications, the practice. And when that passion came into my teaching, students got so excited. They were also very happy learning. So I'm saying this was the example which happened by chance. But we don't encourage. It is good that I got scholarships to go abroad and got international experience, and I have a good CV, so I continue to get good jobs. But we have to make it in the system, in the policy, that we have to get people who are who have industry experience into the education system. We should have people who are multidisciplinary background into the education system. We have to get people who have international exposure into the education system, because those faculty who do not have none of this, and this is one of the biggest challenge, that these three things are very, very important for our education institutions as a way forward, and educational leaders have to make sure that this happens. It is written by the National Education Policy 2020, and all these aspects have to come into our academics, teaching, learning process, research, in our assignments. We talk about creating higher order thinking questions, outcome-based education, and the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. We ask the faculty, you please create questions that applied level questions. If the faculty does not know where is the application, what he or she will do. So a lot of people start doing exactly what is asked them to do for the sake of doing it. We have to change that, and they have to interact. See what happens when you have, assuming you have a set of 50 faculty, even if you have 5 or 6 faculty who have industry experience, who have a multidisciplinary experience, 5 people international experience, the kind of conversations that will happen in the faculty group will be so different that it will lead to changes in the way all these teaching, learning processes, research, consultancy, everything is being happening in the institutions. I was just checking because I have full screen how much time I have left. Have I taken all the time? Okay. The second is technology. We have to use technology to the advantage of our, because technology will help the people in rural areas to get access to education. Technology will help international speakers to interact with us. It will enable research collaborations, and it will help in faculty development as well. And we have to embed all of this also in Indian ethos. That means the culture of collaboration, caring, sharing, and my last slide is exactly about 5 C's I will talk about. We have to understand if all of these things have to be done, the HEI does not exist in isolation. The HEI actually has to report to the government, NIRF, NBA, NAC, MOE rankings, the business. Business is important, creation of wealth is equally important as creation of knowledge. The society, parents, NGOs, the liberals, alumni, the students, graduates, and they all are interconnected, because you'll get students from the society and you'll give the graduates to the industry. They may be going to a service or manufacturing industry. They may be becoming an entrepreneur, but education institutions will be facilitating all of this. 2 major roles of higher education institutions are knowledge dissemination and knowledge creation. So knowledge dissemination is you read books that somebody else has written, you read theories, and then you pass it on. And there is a lot inside it that has to be taken care of. Knowledge creation means you do knowledge dissemination means across the history, all the knowledge that humankind has generated, how well we are able to transfer it to the students in forms of the different disciplines, sub-disciplines. And knowledge creation is creating new knowledge, because every day there is a new requirement and there is a scope for creating new knowledge. There are challenges, a lot of challenges, time is less. I'm not reading that. We should not forget that the purpose of education is that it's a leveler. It reduces social inequalities, gender gap, economic disparity, physical disabilities, utility for social, it brings utility for society and nation, and it helps in the development, peace and prosperity. It adds to the dignity of the self and family. Has any one of you seen an iceberg or heard of it? Titanic is a movie which everybody has seen. And if you know that there was a big ship, it was a big ship created with the best material, with the richest people on earth, with the best leadership, the best captain, and very powerful people, but it crashed. And do you know why Titanic crashed? Because they could not see the bottom of the iceberg. They were seeing only the top of the iceberg. So our NEP is something like this. I have not put the photo of that old Titanic because it crashed. I want to believe that it's a new education policy, and this iceberg, I'm calling it as the education system. We are able to see only the tip of the iceberg. There is so much beneath, and we should not let it happen that the NEP moves towards this education system and it crashes. We want it to succeed. So we have to understand what is the bottom of the iceberg, what is the top of the iceberg. what is the NEP having, and the leader's role is how to make this happen, how to bridge this gap, how to get all our people to do this entire practice. So this is how I represent. This is a thought while I was preparing for you. This came to my mind. I give the example of this iceberg in many other topics also. So this is how I see the education system and the NEP. The leadership should not think that my chair only is important, or survival of institute is important, or fees is important, or seats are important, or how will I get. That is beyond that, you have to see. But even then, these are real life situations, and all of this complex phenomenon puts a big challenge for the NEP 2020 implementation. Quick one slide from that thesis which I did long time ago. I started 20 years ago. We have to begin from what industry needs. We have to look at the institutional environment index, and then we have to look at the operational parameters. As of today, we are talking about looking at the industry. We're talking about the operational parameters like teaching, pedagogy, placement, and curriculum design and other things. But even in this policy, we are not addressing the environment. What is the relationship between students and teachers and parents, the government, the teacher, the management board, and the students? So environment also has to be addressed. I thought I will share this quickly. Now some examples, quick class 4, I'll just take 2-3 minutes to quickly share some examples. This is one hackathon I did in 2015 at GTU. What we did, 10 or 11 government departments, I sat with them and tried to understand what is the problems when they have to make decision making regarding to like farmers and agriculture and various other things. I made problem definitions, 10. I sent it to we had 400 to 500 colleges affiliated to the university. So 100 BTech computers or IT students, they were called to the university campus, and 72-hour hackathon. By the end of it, the apps were ready. Now there was a very big strategy behind it, that how this became successful. I wrote that strategy, we sent it to Delhi, and our Honorable Prime Minister, after that, every year he has been doing it at the national level. What we have done, it's a multidisciplinary work using technology. And I believe I was able to conceptualize this because of my multidisciplinary and technical background. So I started with engineering, I moved to behavioral and social sciences, management, international business, and then you are able to look at the larger picture and you are able to do such things. Second, I was living in the state of Gujarat and born to 2 professors. I was very particular about books as temples of learning. There I saw that people were not too careful about the books, but they valued business. So they were about, so the divide between Lakshmi and Saraswati, that also in our culture, they say they can't be together. But for sustainable development of the society, we have to bring these two together. So what I did to make this happen, there's a university, there's the industry where it was $20 billion US industry, the diamond industry in Gujarat. 11 out of 12 diamond set in jewelry anywhere in the world were cut and polished in Gujarat. And it was nowhere in the books, not even in any IMA case study. I published one case study in 2009 on this. And India accounts for the world net exports of cut and polished diamonds. And this is the figure of, I'm talking of 2006. So 95%. And nowhere. We were only importing cases from the Harvard Business School and teaching. So students, there was no connect. The center of cutting and polishing of diamonds was Belgium, Antwerp earlier. It shifted to Surat in India, and nobody knew about it. So my second PhD thesis I did on this topic. It is titled Organizing the Unorganized, Evidence from Indian Diamond Industry. 2014, this PhD thesis was awarded by, this is one of the top 200 US ranking university. But what we got out of this, if we are able to find such cases, 1,000 universities in our country, even if one such thesis comes out of every university every year, 1,000 such theses or case studies, even case studies, in 25 years, we will have 25,000 such this kind of a knowledge body of literature that will come out from the Indian context. I wrote a model of cultural governance after studying this, and it was cited by Business World, Business Standard, and led to several awards. So you see, we have all kinds of diversity in our country. Some These are the units where I had done field study, and it led to several awards. I'm not doing a self-promotion. I'm just trying to motivate that if we do this, then I converted, once I came back, they said you converted it into a book in the local language. And then it led to several awards. And finally, when our Honorable Prime Minister gave me an audience to look at it. So I want to wind up my presentation by some key concepts. One is we have to have business and academics together. We should not do business of, don't do a business of institutions, focus on business education. Don't create educational institutions itself as a business. And only when these two combine, there will be a sustainable development of society. And second, I want to leave you again with this thought. Please think of adding multidisciplinary industry and international aspects into our educational institutions and use technology as much as possible. Indian ethos. And last, I want to leave you for educational leaders and all levels, anybody who is attached to the education system is a leader. 5 C's, this I have written from my experience. First thing is you develop competence. Only when you have competence, you will have clarity. When you have clarity, you will have courage. We are missing out somewhere. We want to directly go and prove that we have the courage to do things when you have no competence and when you have no clarity. And that will give you confidence and a character. If we have these 5 C's, these are essentials of educational leadership, and our NEP implementation will happen if all of us try to imbibe. I don't know, I have humbly just put forward my views, and I hope that if anything helps anyone and it contributes to making the implementation of NEP 2020 a reality, then I think even if one person thinks there is some value in this presentation, then I will be happy, and thank you. Thank you so much, Seed, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to present.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the inspiring speech, and thank you so much, ma'am. Dear participants, please turn on your video for virtual photo session.
Have I stopped sharing? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I'm elated to take an opportunity to welcome and introduce our keynote speaker of the day, Dr. Ramhari Lamichan, sir. Dr. Ramhari, currently designated as President, Asia Pacific Accreditation and Certification Commission and Director General, Colombo Plant Staff College for Technical Education, known as CPSE, Metro Manila, Philippines. He is the first Nepali and the 11th Director General of CPSE. He obtained a PhD and MPhil degree in Education Leadership from Kathmandu University, Nepal. He has a degree on Educational Administration, Planning and Policy as a Fulbright professional from Peabody College, Vanderbilt University, Tennessee, USA. He also studied Advanced Diploma in Hospital Management from TEFE, South Australia. He obtained his MBA and his Bachelor in Commerce degree from Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu, Nepal. Dr. Ramhari has served as a member secretary, that is Chief Executive Officer of the Council for Technical Education and Vocational Training, known as CTEVT in Kathmandu, Nepal, prior to his appointment as CPSE Director General. He was involved in the development of national TVET policy in Nepal, as well as the development and implementation of TVET programs. Experience of 25 years in TVET in different positions as instructor, principal, program coordinator, project manager, and director contributed to make him Chief Executive Officer of CTEVT. Additionally, he taught MBA students for 15 years as part-time faculty of White House College, Purvanchal University, Nepal. Dear professors, I am pleased to welcome Dr. Ramhari sir to take over the session. Welcome, sir. The floor is open and yours.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, please unmute, sir.
Welcome, sir. Sir.
Sir, please unmute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I informed them, sir. Ashokan, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for wonderful introduction to me.
Thank you, sir.
The chairpersons of seat, Mr. Rajkumar, sir, Professor Dr. Professor Bragadishwaram, sir, and respected all the speakers,
Yeah.
like
Who?
Dr. Indu Rao.
Madam, he is speaking. We are listening.
Yeah, is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Please proceed, sir, please.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. G. Kulanthaivel from the United Chennai, and all the distinguished professionals, member of the seat, board, all the board members, and very valuable participants around the globe. On behalf of Colombo Plan Staff College and myself, first of all, I would like to thank for the organizing team, especially SEED, for this wonderful event of today's Educational Leadership Award and entrepreneurship related presentations. I'm very much delighted with the previous presentations. It was very excellent. And considering the time of evening and little bit late, I changed my mind. I am not going to present. I'll just give very short and sweet speech, I hope. So thank you for the organizer. You know, when we listen the presentations, the important things for leadership is transform. We have to think about transform, such a powerful word, isn't it? Imagine you have the ability to transform anything or anyone. What would you change? What would you create? That is the main questions we have to answer as a leader. I'm quite sure everyone here dreams of transforming something. One may want to transform their life and have a better future for their family. Others may be dreaming of transforming their community to uplift their living conditions. Some may be passionate in transforming their institutional systems for the organization to be more productive than it ever was. Transformation speaks change. Transformation call for actions. Transformation, most importantly, creates leader and trailblazers that inspires others to take part in the creation of a better future. It is indeed very tempting to jump on your feet and start right away and pave the way for yourself and for others. However, it is very important to make sure that you are equipped with the right tools, strategies, and knowledge for you to succeed in any transformation that you will embark on. Like a soldier on full battle gear, one needs to understand that the road to success is not travel with desire alone. It should be hand in hand with comprehensive preparation and planning. Without preparation and planning, we cannot reach the destination. Unfortunately, the pandemic struck suddenly. All of our dreams and plans have to be reconsidered or even set aside. Priorities have to be revisited, especially that the needs of the global economy has drastically shifted. One of the most affected sector of this pandemic is education. The once interactive and inclusive nature of teaching and learning was forced to be converted into an isolated setup where teachers and learners have to adapt into talking with their computer monitors. What was a very dynamic environment before has been reduced to what seems to be a monotonous routine like this Zoom meeting. The pandemic has likewise hit the business and industry sector quite hard. Relying heavily on foot traffic, commercial establishments are caught off guard when lockdowns are implemented in an attempt to prevent the spread of the virus. Unfortunately, this led to traditional businesses reducing their operations or even closing down due to challenges in keeping their sales up. Our current situations teaches us that in order to survive and thrive, one has to adapt and evolve. The 7th International Conference on Educational Leadership is the perfect platform for current leaders, as well as the future and aspiring ones, to acquire significant and applicable ideas and insights from the roster of distinguished speakers and resource persons that can help them create the change needed in their institution in order for it to keep up with the times. Further, in the era of technological advancement, the shift from the traditional to digital economy may be inevitable and can happen so quickly. Hence, this event also brings innovative yet effective strategies in the promotion and development of entrepreneurial and technopreneurial culture, which are very timely in this period of Industrial Revolution 4.0 amidst the pandemic. As the previous speaker highlighted, that the leader is that person who can make and satisfy many collaborators. And today's term, we don't use the term followers and teammates. We use the term collaborators. The persons who can make more collaborators, they are successful leader. Similarly, leadership is that quality which can manage change. If we cannot manage change, definitely context or environment will change us, and maybe they will bring another lead. Leadership always comes with vision and innovation. Without vision and innovation, we cannot imagine of the leadership quality. There are 6 E's of leadership, 6 E's principle we can say. That is envision, with vision, embody, enlist, empower, evaluate, and encourage. If we able to apply that 6 E's principle of leadership, definitely we will be a successful leader in 21st century. Lastly, I would like to extend my compliments to the Society of Educational and Entrepreneurship Development SEED for coming up with this truly relevant event and for giving me the opportunity to take part and impart my expertise. Let me also congratulate all the participants for your commitment in elevating your knowledge and skills through your involvement in this conference. I wish that you obtain as much useful learnings as you can from our speakers, and all the same time share your insights so as to make our event a multi-faceted and inclusive forum for everyone. Thank you very much, and cheers to lifelong learning. Thank you very much. Good night. Namaskar to everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Dear participants, please turn on the video for virtual group photo taken by our organizer.
Thank you, Dr. Ram, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. ZK.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, madam. Okay, madam. Please carry on. Next.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants. Moving on, may I request Dr. C. Uday Kumar, currently designated as Dean, Arjun College of Technology, Coimbatore, India, as well as Vice Chairman in Quality Circle Forum of India, Chennai, to share the consolidated report of the day. Sir, over to you.
Am I audible, madam?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yes. Happy evening to one and all present here. I think we are very fortunate to have eminent speakers so far talking about the educational leadership, which is the need of the hour. And SEED is organizing such an event for 2-3 days. I am sure this sessions, the continuous session will give a lot of takeaway for the educationalists to go and implement the leadership style in their organization. Today we started with Dr. Lee Sutherland, and she was talking about getting others to do great things. That was the topic she was dealing with. And she was talking about the basic definition of leadership, unlocking the people's potential to make them better. That was a fantastic definition given by her. Then she was talking about the attributes of best educational leaderships. She was talking so fantastically about the educational leadership attributes. And she was talking about the conventional leadership theories. She was talking about the leadership types and what type of leaders you are, to identify what type of leader you are. She was giving us color points and compass points, and by which we can understand what kind of leadership we possess. That was a fantastic way of kindling our interest on educational leadership. And she was talking about the various leaders of the entire world who have contributed to the educational sector. Like Nelson Mandela was talking about the education, how Mahatma Gandhi was talking about the education, how Spandy was talking about the outcome-based education, how Howard Gardner was talking about the various educational aspect and the Montessori type of education. She was covering the entire spectrum of leaders, those who have contributed their ideas to the educational leadership. Also, she was talking about the common leadership qualities of these leaders, how they are common each other as far as their vision, their challenges, how they look at the changes which are supposed to happen in the education field. She was talking about all these leaders, their common points. She was talking very nicely, and she was talking about a lot of lessons that we should take up, like lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5, lesson 6. She was talking about a lot of lessons that one has to go through to become a good educational leader. And she was repeatedly talking about Nelson Mandela, how he has contributed, his ideas to the educational sector. It was very, very interesting. Then we had another interesting speaker, Dr. C. Sundar. He was talking about how the SRM university has evolved from a small school, how the leadership was helping the industry to grow in a bigger manner. He was talking about the skill set required for the lecturers, for the leaders, for the principal, for the directors. He was talking so nicely about the competency skill required for the entire leadership in the educational institution. And he was also talking about the millennium generation we are facing today, how to handle the students using the leadership styles. It was really very fantastic. And he was talking about the outcome-based education, how the directors and principals should focus on that, and how the accreditations are helping to grow the educational leadership in the various organizations. He was talking about the training required for the faculty, the continuous improvement methodology to be adopted in educational institution, how to bring the rural people to the level of urban people, what kind of leadership is required for that. It was a fantastic session given by Sundar. Then another fantastic professor from VIT, Dr. Indurao, was talking about so nicely about the various bullet points of NEP 2020, and she was talking the important points of NEP 2020 and the challenges involved in various points. It was very interesting. Multidisciplinary educational leadership. She was talking about 100% youth and adult education, and she was talking about the robust and transparent method of recruiting the leaders. She was talking so nicely about the internationalism of education, mentoring and counseling talents to be adopted among the faculty members, among the educational leaders. And she was talking about her own ideas, how the NEP 2020 can be focused on. So she was mentioning some of the areas like, the industrial people have to come to the education so that, people get and the industrial skill from the teacher itself. She was talking very nicely about how she brought the industrial knowledge to her institution, how it was useful in developing the leadership among the students. It was very, very interesting to know about it. And she was talking about multidisciplinary and multi-talented skill required among the faculties. And the days have come that we need to go for a multidisciplinary research. One has to do the research in the other area. And she was talking about the collaborative research methodologies and how the higher education institution can disseminate the knowledge, how they can create new knowledges, and how the leadership can help in creating and disseminating the knowledges which is happening at various universities. And she was talking about why education is the leveler, how it brings people to, at the equal point and giving equal opportunity for the entire community. She was talking so nicely about the essentials of educational leadership. That was really eye-opening to all of us. And the keynote speaker was talking elaborately on the collaborative way of working together, the strategy required for the educational leaders. She was talking about the transformation, the magic word of transformation, and the collaboration. Only collaboration can bring success among the leaders. That was a really very punching point. And he was giving us the 10 keys and principles for educational leadership. Altogether, this session was very useful today. I'm sure all the people, all the professors, all the educational, those who have participated today will get benefited. I'm sure that with all this knowledge, we can create an excellent leadership in all our institutions. I'm sure with all this knowledge, SEED is really helping us in molding the educational institution in a great way. With this, I conclude the report of today's session. I really thank SEED and Dr. Asokan for giving me this wonderful opportunity of summarizing the whole, all the sessions, the points, and deliberating on this. Thank you so much for the opportunity, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the consolidated report, sir. Thank you, sir. I request participants to turn on the video for virtual group photo session taken by our organizer. Dear participants, please turn on your video. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, please.
Okay, sir. Saying thank you is more than good manners. It is a good spirituality. The essence of all beauty lies in the art of gratitude. I request Dr. Parvadam Kailasam, Professor, Sri Sairam Engineering College, to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. It gives me immense pleasure to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of SEED. It's a great privilege to thank Dr. C. Uday Kumar, Dean, Arjun College of Technology, Coimbatore, Vice Chairman, Quality Circle Forum of India, Chennai, for welcoming the wonderful virtual audience across the world. His welcome address motivated the audience to dive deep into the subject. I thank for his encouragement and appreciation. Dr. Lee Elisa Piffer, Quality Assurance Manager, International Maritime College, Oman, is thanked heartfully for guiding us through getting other to do great things with her 6 lessons in educational leadership. We were all traveling with her in the virtual journey. We all thank her for delivering the excellent essence on leadership in education. Dr. C. Sundar, Dean, College of Science and Humanities, SRM IST Ramapuram, Chennai, is well acknowledged with thanks for his wonderful lecture on educational leadership essential. He had literally guided us to be the leaders on learning the essentials in the educational system by taking the case study of SRM. The challenging address by Dr. Indu Rao, Professor and Director, Academic Staff College, VIT, Vellore, on the NEP challenges for educational leaders was enthusiastic and energetic. Thanks for evincing her acumen and expertise in the field of education. I'm very much pleased and honored to thank the keynote speaker, Dr. Ramhari, Asia Pacific Accreditation and Certification Commission and Director General of Colombo Plant Staff College for Technical Education, Philippines, for his exemplary deliverance and guidance of the evolving audience, leading towards better future of the education system as a whole. The organizers of this virtual global program and all who participated actively in this event are thanked for their efforts, interest, and precious time. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear professors, we are closing the meeting officially. Thank you all. And we are looking forward to see you all in tomorrow's event at 5 o'clock. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aarti.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night,
Thank you very
everybody.
much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for all for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Night. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.